Tonight, the air in Rome is thick with anticipation, not for the usual gladiatorial contests or chariot races that electrify the Colosseum, but for a spectacle far more intimate, far more insidious. Behind velvet curtains, so plush they seem to absorb every stray sound, and within the embrace of thick marble walls that have witnessed centuries of power plays, a different kind of performance awaits. This is no ordinary Roman stage, open to the masses and bathed in the harsh light of public scrutiny. No, this is a clandestine arena, a private theater where the stakes are immeasurably higher, and the audience is not merely watching, they are judging, their collective gaze a silent, potent force. Here, whispers carry more weight than the thunderous applause of the plebeians, each hushed word a potential decree of life or death. The very atmosphere is charged with a tension that hums beneath the surface, a palpable current of expectation and dread. As the evening deepens, lamps flicker in private alcoves, casting dancing shadows that play tricks on the eye, making the opulent surroundings seem both grander and more menacing. Golden goblets, intricately carved and gleaming with the promise of fine wine, are filled and refilled, their clinking a counterpoint to the low murmur of conversation. Yet, amidst this lavish display, a man prepares to offer not just a show, but his very life. He is the performer, and his stage is a crucible where beauty masks cruelty, and where a single misstep can seal a fate more final than any theatrical curtain call. The scent of warm oil, used to anoint the bodies of the wealthy, mingles with the fading fragrance of roses, their petals wilting in the oppressive heat of the room, creating an olfactory tapestry of luxury and decay. Every surface, from the polished marble floors to the gilded cornices, gleams with the accumulated wealth of an empire, reflecting the flickering lamplight in 1,000 tiny, distorted images. Yet beneath this veneer of grandeur, tension runs like an insidious undercurrent, a silent river of anxiety that threatens to overflow. This is not a space designed for mere entertainment. It is a silent arena, a place where the boundaries between art and survival blur, and where the line between applause and execution is razor thin. The architecture of this hidden theater itself speaks volumes. Unlike the vast, open-air amphitheaters, this space is enclosed, almost claustrophobic in its intimacy. The marble walls, cool and unyielding to the touch, seem to absorb sound, creating an echo chamber for the unspoken. The velvet curtains, heavy and dark, do not merely separate the stage from the audience. They serve as a psychological barrier, heightening the sense of mystery and exclusivity. Each alcove, each private box, is strategically placed to offer an unobstructed view of the stage, yet simultaneously to conceal the identities of its occupants, fostering an environment of anonymity and unchecked power. The lighting, provided by oil lamps rather than the natural light of day, is deliberately subdued, creating an atmosphere of hushed drama. Shadows lengthen and recede with every movement, adding to the theatricality of the setting, but also to its unsettling ambiguity. The air, though scented with luxury, feels heavy, as if burdened by the weight of past performances, past judgments, past lives. The very silence, punctuated only by the clinking of goblets and the rustle of fine silks, is pregnant with meaning, a silent testament to the absolute authority wielded by those who sit in judgment. This hidden theater is a microcosm of Roman society itself, a place where the elite gather to indulge their desires, however dark or unconventional. It is a space where the rules of the outside world are suspended, where morality is a fluid concept, and where the whims of the powerful dictate the fate of the vulnerable. The performer, in this context, is not merely an artist. He is a pawn in a dangerous game, a living embodiment of the precariousness of existence under an autocratic regime. His art, whatever form it may take, is not valued for its intrinsic beauty or its ability to inspire, but rather for its capacity to amuse, to distract, to satisfy the fleeting desires of his powerful audience. The applause he seeks is not an affirmation of his talent, but a reprieve, a temporary stay of execution. The execution he fears is not a public spectacle, but a quiet, almost clinical elimination, a silent disappearance into the annals of forgotten lives. The hidden theater, therefore, is more than just a venue. It is a symbol of the hidden power structures that govern Roman life, a chilling reminder that even in the pursuit of entertainment, the shadow of death looms large. The very act of entering this space is an unspoken acknowledgement of its unique rules. Guests arrive in hushed tones, their usual boisterousness muted by the solemnity of the occasion. They are not here to be entertained in the conventional sense. They are here to participate in a ritual, a macabre dance between life and death, where the performer is both the protagonist and the potential sacrifice. The golden goblets, while filled with wine, also serve as a subtle reminder of the wealth and privilege of those who hold them, a stark contrast to the performer's vulnerability. The scent of warm oil and fading roses, though initially pleasant, soon becomes cloying, a suffocating reminder of the artificiality and decay that permeate this hidden world. Every detail, from the flickering lamps to the hushed whispers, contributes to an atmosphere of heightened tension, a sense that something momentous, something irreversible, is about to transpire. The hidden theater is a stage not just for the performer, but for the raw, unvarnished exercise of power, a place where the boundaries of human experience are tested and where the echoes of past tragedies linger in the very air. It is a silent arena, indeed, but one that reverberates with the unspoken anxieties and desires of both the audience and the performer, a place where the final act is always uncertain, and where the true drama unfolds not on the stage, but in the hearts of those who watch and those who are watched. In the bowels of this clandestine theater, far removed from the opulent whispers and flickering lamplight of the audience, lies a dim stone chamber. This is the performer's sanctuary, his antechamber to destiny, a space where the world outside ceases to exist, replaced by the stark reality of his impending ordeal. The air here is cool, damp, and carries the faint, earthy scent of ancient stone, a stark contrast to the perfumed decadence above. It is in this solitary confinement that the performer undertakes his ritual, a meticulous preparation that is less about artistry and more about survival. The pigments, vibrant and earthy, are not merely cosmetics. They are carefully ground, each granule imbued with a desperate hope, then layered onto his skin with the precision of a craftsman building armor. This is a transformation, not into a character, but into a shield, a mask designed to deflect the predatory gazes of those who await him. Each stroke of the brush is a prayer, each layer a fortification against the vulnerability that threatens to consume him. The silence in this chamber is not merely the absence of sound. It is a sacred, heavy presence, a living entity that presses in on him, amplifying the frantic beat of his own heart. This is where fear, raw and unadulterated, is concentrated, distilled into every deliberate movement. Outside, he can faintly discern the distant echoes of laughter, the clinking of goblets, the low hum of conversation, sounds of a world oblivious to the silent struggle unfolding beneath their feet. Inside, there is only the ragged rhythm of his own breath, the tremor in his hands as he applies the final touches, and the relentless ticking of an internal clock. Words are repeated, not for the sake of memorization, but for control. They are incantations, whispered affirmations, meant to steady his nerves, to anchor him in the present, to remind him of the precarious tightrope he is about to walk. He is not rehearsing lines. He is rehearsing his very existence, each syllable a desperate plea for composure. The transformation is profound, extending beyond the superficial application of paint. It is a psychological metamorphosis, a deliberate shedding of his own identity to become something safer, an object, a mask, a vessel. He must cease to be a man with fears, hopes, and dreams, and instead become a reflection of what others want to see, a blank canvas onto which their desires and expectations can be projected. Every gesture, Every subtle shift of his body is rehearsed with a reverence that transcends mere artistic discipline. This is not reverence for art, but for life itself. He practices the precise tilt of his head, the exact angle of his smile, the measured cadence of his voice, knowing that a single false note, a moment of genuine emotion, could be his undoing. He is becoming a puppet, his strings pulled by the unseen hands of his audience, his performance a desperate dance for continued existence. His mind, even as his hands work with practiced efficiency, races through countless scenarios. He recalls past performances, the subtle cues from the audience, the almost imperceptible shifts in their mood. He remembers the stories of those who failed, their names whispered in hushed tones, their fates serving as grim warnings. He visualizes the stage above, the blinding lights, the sea of faces, each one a potential judge, a potential executioner. He must anticipate their boredom, their cruelty, their fleeting attention. He must be captivating, yet not too captivating, vulnerable, yet not weak, amusing, yet never truly human. It is a delicate balance, a tightrope walk over an abyss of indifference and malice. The paint on his face is not just a disguise. It is a barrier, a psychological wall between his true self and the ravenous gaze of the elite. The silence in the chamber is his last refuge, a brief respite before he steps into the cacophony of judgment. He closes his eyes for a moment, drawing a deep, shuddering breath. The scent of the pigments, sharp and metallic, fills his nostrils. He can feel the cool, smooth surface of the stone beneath his fingertips, a grounding presence in the swirling chaos of his thoughts. He thinks of nothing, or rather, he tries to think of nothing, to empty his mind of all fear, all hope, all personal desire. He must become pure performance, an empty vessel for the amusement of others. This is the ultimate act of self-preservation, to erase oneself, to become a mirror, reflecting back only what the audience wishes to see. The transformation is complete. The man is gone, replaced by the performer, a meticulously crafted illusion designed for one purpose, to survive the night. He opens his eyes, and in their depths, there is a flicker of something ancient, something primal, the will to live, however high the cost. He stands, his movements fluid and practiced, a ghost of his former self, ready to face the hidden theater and its silent arena. The ritual is complete, the performer is ready, and the silence, once a sanctuary, now feels like a prelude to the storm. As the performer's transformation solidifies, a new sound pierces the sacred silence of his chamber. The soft, rhythmic whisper of approaching footsteps, the almost imperceptible rustle of sandals against the cold, unyielding stone floor. This sound, innocuous to any other, is a chilling harbinger for him, a direct conduit to memories that are sharp, unwelcome, and deeply etched into the very fabric of this place. These are not just any memories. They are the ghosts of performances past, the echoes of fate sealed, and most acutely, the haunting specter of the last performer. He remembers him vividly, a man of vibrant spirit whose laughter once filled these very corridors, whose art was as captivating as a summer storm. But he didn't come back from that stage. There had been no scream, no dramatic cry for help, no public outcry. Only a silence, profound and absolute, that spoke volumes, a silence that resonated with a chilling finality. The guards who carried him out, their faces impassive, their eyes averted, had refused to meet anyone's gaze, their silence a complicit acknowledgement of the unspeakable. This corridor, once a space of nervous pacing and last-minute preparations, now feels less like a passage and more like a tomb. Every shadow seems to lengthen. Every draft of air feels like a cold breath from the past. The walls, once mere architectural boundaries, now seem closer, pressing in on him, suffocating him with the weight of history. Each breath he takes feels like a countdown, a finite resource, dwindling with every step he takes towards the stage. Yet, despite the overwhelming dread, There is no turning back. The path ahead is the only path, a cruel inevitability. He walks forward, not with the defiant stride of courage, but with the grim determination of necessity, propelled by an instinct for survival that overrides all fear. The air grows heavier with each step, thick with the unspoken stories of those who have walked this path before him, those who have faced the same judgment, and those who have vanished into the silent annals of this hidden theater. The memory of the last performer is a constant, gnawing presence. He had been a master of his craft, a true artist who believed in the power of his performance to transcend the mundane. The current performer had watched him, admired him, perhaps even envied his unbridled passion. But passion, he now understands, is a luxury in this arena, a dangerous vulnerability. The last performer's demise had been a stark lesson. In this place, art is merely a tool, a means to an end, and the end is always survival. He recalls the hushed conversations among the other performers, the furtive glances, the unspoken warnings. They had all seen the signs, the subtle shifts in the host's demeanor, the tightening of the audience's collective gaze. They had known, with a chilling certainty, that something was amiss, but none had dared to speak. The silence had been their complicity, their desperate attempt to avoid the same fate. As he nears the entrance to the stage, the sounds from the audience become clearer, a muffled roar that filters through the heavy curtains. He can almost feel their collective anticipation, their hunger for spectacle, their insatiable desire for amusement. He imagines their faces, a sea of indifferent eyes, each one a potential judge. He wonders if they remember the last performer, if his ghost still lingers in their collective consciousness. Or have they, like the guards, simply moved on, their memories as fleeting as the applause they once offered? He knows that his own fate hangs in the balance, a precarious dance between their fleeting amusement and their ultimate boredom. He must be more than just a performer. He must be a distraction, a momentary escape from their own ennui, a fleeting illusion that can hold their attention just long enough to secure his survival. The corridor itself seems to stretch endlessly, each step a deliberate act of defiance against the crushing weight of his fear. He can feel the tremor in his hands, the shallow breaths that barely fill his lungs. He tries to focus on the rhythm of his own footsteps, to find a steady beat amidst the chaos of his thoughts. He reminds himself of the countless hours of practice, the meticulous preparation, the unwavering dedication to his craft. But in this moment, those things seem trivial, almost meaningless. What truly matters is his ability to navigate the treacherous currents of this hidden theater, to appease the insatiable appetites of his audience, and to emerge from this ordeal with his life intact. The corridor, with its chilling memories and its suffocating intimacy, is a final test, a psychological gauntlet that he must endure before he steps onto the stage. He is not just walking towards a performance. He is walking towards his destiny, a destiny that will be decided by the whims of those who sit in judgment, those who hold the power of life and death in their indifferent hands. And as he takes his final steps, he whispers a silent prayer, not for success, but for survival, a desperate plea to escape the fate of the last one. The low hum of conversation, a constant, almost comforting backdrop to the performer's anxious preparations, suddenly hushes. It is not a gradual fading, but an abrupt cessation, as if a collective breath has been held, a silent command issued without a single word. A presence enters, not with the fanfare of trumpets or the announcement of a herald, but with an inevitability that is far more potent than any grand entrance. This is the true power of the host. His arrival is a gravitational pull, drawing all attention, silencing all dissent. He is the sun around which this clandestine world revolves, and his orbit dictates the very air that others breathe. The performer, still concealed behind the heavy velvet curtain, feels the shift in the atmosphere, a sudden chill that has nothing to do with the temperature of the room. His breath catches in his throat, his heart already a frantic drum, now hammers against his ribs with a desperate urgency. The host, draped in regal crimson, a color that speaks of power, blood, and absolute authority, moves with a languid grace that belies the immense weight of his influence. His garments are of the finest silk, embroidered with threads of gold that catch the flickering lamplight, each fold a testament to his unimaginable wealth. He does not stride. He glides, his movements economical, almost disdainful of the space he occupies. His face, though perhaps handsome in a conventional sense, is devoid of warmth, his eyes like polished obsidian, reflecting nothing, revealing nothing. He takes his seat, not among the common nobility, but above all others, on a raised dais that commands a panoramic view of the stage and the assembled guests. It is a throne in all but name, a seat of judgment from which he surveys his domain. His gaze, when it finally settles, is not one of curiosity or interest, but of profound indifference, as if the entire spectacle before him is merely a fleeting distraction, a momentary diversion from the vastness of his own power. His fingers, long and slender, curl slowly around the stem of his chalice, a delicate, almost sensual movement that holds within it the potential for immense cruelty. A raised brow, a subtle tightening of his lips, a barely perceptible nod. These are his commands, and they carry the weight of life and death. He does not clap. He does not smile. These are expressions of engagement, of emotion, and he is above such trivialities. But when he nods, the curtain must rise, and the performance, however terrifying, must begin. Around him, the nobles, a collection of Rome's most influential and jaded elite, settle into their golden couches. Their initial murmurs of anticipation have given way to a hushed reverence, their attention now sharp and predatory, mirroring the host's own cold detachment. They are not here for art. They are here for the thrill of the hunt, for the vicarious experience of power, for the spectacle of a life hanging by a thread. Their eyes, once filled with idle chatter, are now fixed on the stage, their expressions a mixture of boredom and morbid curiosity. They are connoisseurs of suffering, their palates refined by years of indulgence, and they crave something new, something raw, something that can momentarily stir their dulled senses. The performer, watching from behind the curtain, feels their collective gaze like a physical weight, a thousand invisible threads pulling at his very soul. His breath becomes shallow, each inhale a struggle, each exhale a silent plea. His heart hammers in time with the slow, deliberate footsteps of fate, each beat a reminder of the precariousness of his existence. The host's indifference is perhaps the most terrifying aspect of his presence. It is not malice, not anger, but a profound lack of empathy that chills the performer to the bone. Malice can be reasoned with, anger can be appeased, but indifference is an impenetrable wall, a void that swallows all hope. He is a god in this miniature universe, his whims absolute, his judgment final. The performer understands that his survival depends not on his talent, not on his artistry, but on his ability to momentarily pierce that veil of indifference, to elicit some flicker of interest, however fleeting. He must become a mirror, reflecting back to the host and his guests an image of themselves, an image that is both amusing and harmless. He must be a distraction, a fleeting illusion that can momentarily fill the void of their jaded existence. The very air in the hidden theater seems to thicken with the weight of this unspoken understanding, a silent agreement between the powerful and the powerless. The host's arrival is not just a physical act. It is a psychological one, a reassertion of dominance, a reminder to everyone present of the true nature of this gathering. It is a demonstration of power, raw and unvarnished, a spectacle in itself. The way he takes his seat, the way his fingers toy with the chalice, the way his gaze sweeps across the room. Every movement is a deliberate performance, designed to intimidate, to control, to remind all who is truly in charge. The performer, a mere shadow behind the curtain, feels the full force of this power, a crushing weight that threatens to extinguish his very spirit. He knows that his life, his future, his very breath, rests in the hands of this one man, a man who views him not as a human being, but as a disposable commodity, a fleeting source of amusement. The stage is set, the audience is ready, and the man who decides life has arrived. The curtain, he knows, will soon rise, and with it, the final act of his desperate struggle for survival will begin. Behind the heavy, oppressive velvet curtain, a moment of held breath stretches into an eternity. It is the silence before a storm, the pregnant pause before a symphony's crescendo, the agonizing stillness that precedes a plunge into the unknown. For the performer, this is the final edge, the precipice between the anonymity of the wings and the terrifying exposure of the stage. His heart, a frantic drum against his ribs, pounds in a rhythm that is both his own and that of the distant lyre, its gentle melody a cruel counterpoint to the tempest raging within him. Every beat is a reminder of the thin veil separating him from the judging eyes, the silent arbiters of his fate. The air, thick with the scent of dust and anticipation, seems to vibrate with unspoken expectations, each particle charged with the weight of his impending performance. He stands utterly still, a statue carved from fear and desperate hope. His muscles are coiled, ready to spring into action, yet held in check by an invisible force. His mind, a whirlwind of rehearsed lines and desperate prayers, focuses on a single, all-consuming thought: make them forget they can kill you. This is not a plea for applause, not a desire for admiration, but a raw primal instinct for survival. He must be so captivating, so utterly engrossing, that for a fleeting moment, the audience forgets their power, forgets their capacity for cruelty, forgets the very reason they are gathered in this hidden theater. He takes one deep, shuddering breath, drawing in the stale air, holding it, and then slowly releasing it, as if expelling the last vestiges of his own identity. With that breath, the man recedes, and the performer, the illusion, steps forward. His senses are heightened to an almost unbearable degree. He can feel the subtle vibrations of the stage floor beneath his feet, the faint tremor of the heavy curtain as it prepares to rise. He can hear the muffled coughs from the audience, the rustle of their silks, the almost imperceptible clinking of their goblets, each sound amplified, distorted, transformed into a harbinger of judgment. The darkness behind the curtain is a temporary sanctuary, a final moment of respite before the blinding light of exposure. He closes his eyes for a fraction of a second, picturing the stage, the precise spot where he must stand, the exact angle of his first bow. Every movement has been meticulously rehearsed, every word meticulously chosen, but in this moment, all that preparation feels fragile, ephemeral, easily shattered by a single misstep. He remembers the stories, the whispered legends of performers who faltered at this very threshold, their courage failing, their voices cracking, their bodies freezing in terror. He knows that hesitation is death, that any sign of weakness will be seized upon by the predatory gaze of the audience. He must project an aura of confidence, of effortless grace, even as his insides churn with a desperate fear. The mask he has so carefully constructed in the dim chamber below must remain unblemished, impenetrable. He is not just stepping onto wood. He is stepping onto judgment, onto a precarious tightrope stretched over an abyss of indifference. The stage is not merely a platform for his art. It is an altar, and he, the sacrificial lamb. Then, with a slow, deliberate creak, the curtain begins its ascent. It rises with a breath of its own, a silent exhalation that reveals the expectant faces of the audience, row upon row of them, their eyes like hungry embers in the dim light. Shadows stretch across the stage, long and distorted, dancing with the flickering lamps, transforming the familiar space into something alien and menacing. His first step is not onto the polished planks of the stage, but into the harsh glare of their collective scrutiny. Every sound, Every breath from the audience is sharper now, each whisper a potential condemnation, each rustle a sign of their impatience. The air, once thick with anticipation, now feels thin, almost suffocating. He is exposed, vulnerable, yet he must project an image of absolute control, of effortless mastery. He feels the weight of the host's gaze, a cold, piercing stare that seems to strip him bare, to see through his carefully constructed facade. He does not dare to meet it directly, but he feels its presence, a constant pressure on his back, urging him forward, demanding perfection. The performance has already begun, not with his first line, but with his first step, with the very act of revealing himself to their hungry eyes. He is no longer a man. He is a spectacle, an object of their amusement, a pawn in their cruel game. The silence that follows the curtain's rise is deafening, a vacuum that demands to be filled, a canvas awaiting his first stroke. He opens his mouth, and the first words, carefully chosen, meticulously rehearsed, emerge not as a declaration, but as a desperate plea for another breath, another moment of life. The performance has truly begun, and with it, the desperate dance for survival. The words, carefully chosen and meticulously rehearsed, finally leave his lips, hanging in the air like fragile glass. A line lands, a gesture, practiced countless times in the dim solitude of his chamber, evokes a reaction. And then it comes, laughter. It erupts from the assembled audience, a sudden, collective sound that reverberates through the hidden theater, echoing off the marble walls and velvet curtains. But from where does it truly spring? Is it sincere, a genuine expression of amusement, a sign that his carefully constructed illusion is working? Or is it cruel, a mocking chorus designed to underscore his precarious position, a prelude to a more sinister judgment? The performer dares not look directly at the host, his gaze fixed instead on some indeterminate point beyond the immediate rows, a strategic avoidance born of desperate self-preservation. Every beat of approval, every ripple of mirth, is a fragile thread toward life. Every chuckle, however innocent it may sound, might be laced with sarcasm, a hidden barb aimed at his very soul. Yet still, the rhythm continues, because to hesitate would be to fall, to break character, to show even a flicker of the terror that churns within him, would be to invite disaster. The performance becomes a desperate, intricate dance of masks, his own, meticulously crafted and worn, and theirs, the inscrutable expressions of the elite, their true intentions hidden behind polite smiles and indifferent gazes. He must amuse them, distract them, disarm them. He becomes charming, then clumsy, then clever. Whatever persona, whatever fleeting emotion, whatever carefully calculated comedic timing, buys him another breath, another moment of reprieve. Each laugh is a tiny victory, a temporary validation, but also a constant question mark, a reminder of the razor's edge upon which he balances. He is a tightrope walker, and the laughter is the wind, sometimes a gentle breeze, sometimes a gale threatening to send him plummeting into the abyss. He has studied their kind, these patrons of the hidden theater. He knows their fickle nature, their insatiable appetite for novelty, their swift descent into boredom. He understands that their amusement is a fleeting thing, easily extinguished, and that once it dies, something far more dangerous takes its place. So he pours every ounce of his being into the performance, his body a conduit for the characters he embodies, his voice a chameleon, shifting tones and cadences to suit the moment. He tells tales of foolish lovers, of bumbling servants, of pompous senators, each narrative woven with just enough wit and self-deprecation to elicit another wave of laughter. He exaggerates his movements, contorts his face into comical expressions, all designed to keep their attention, to prevent their minds from wandering back to the darker possibilities that lurk beneath the surface of this gilded cage. But even as he elicits their laughter, a part of him remains detached, observing, analyzing. He watches their eyes, searching for genuine mirth, for the crinkling at the corners that signals true amusement. He listens to the quality of their laughter, distinguishing between the light, genuine chortle and the deeper, more cynical guffaw. He knows that some among them are merely performing their own roles, laughing on cue, their expressions carefully curated to reflect the host's unspoken sentiments. These are the most dangerous, for their reactions are not organic, but calculated, a mirror of the power dynamics at play. He must navigate this treacherous landscape of feigned emotions, constantly adjusting his performance, like a sailor trimming his sails in a shifting wind. The pressure is immense, a suffocating blanket that threatens to smother his every creative impulse. He feels the sweat gathering on his brow, a cold trickle beneath the heavy layers of paint. His muscles ache from the sustained tension. His voice strains from the constant projection. Yet, he cannot falter. He cannot show weakness. He is a machine of amusement, programmed for survival, and every laugh he extracts is a drop of fuel, keeping the engine of his existence running. He remembers the last performer, the one who didn't come back. He wonders if that man, too, had heard this same laughter, if he, too, had questioned its sincerity, if he, too, had fought this desperate battle for another breath. The memory is a spur, a grim reminder of the consequences of failure. He delivers a particularly witty retort, a clever play on words that draws a louder, more sustained burst of laughter. For a moment, a fleeting, precious moment, he allows himself to hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, he has found the key, the magic formula that will unlock their genuine approval, that will guarantee his safe passage through this treacherous night. But then, the laughter begins to subside, replaced by a low murmur, a shifting of bodies on the golden couches. The moment of hope passes, replaced by the familiar gnawing anxiety. He knows that the performance is a continuous negotiation, a constant struggle against their fleeting attention. He must keep them engaged, keep them amused, keep them from remembering the true purpose of this gathering. The laughter, he realizes, is not a destination, but a temporary waypoint, a fleeting reprieve in a journey fraught with peril. He takes another breath, deep and measured, and prepares for the next act, the next desperate attempt to amuse, to distract, to survive. The first laugh was merely the opening salvo in a battle he must win, one breath, one line, one desperate chuckle at a time. As the performance unfolds, a subtle shift occurs in the audience, a change in the very quality of their attention that sends a shiver down the performer's spine. Some eyes, indeed, drink in the spectacle with a hunger that is almost palpable, their gazes wide and unblinking, absorbing every nuance of his movements, every inflection of his voice. These are the rare few, perhaps genuinely captivated by the artistry, or simply less jaded than their peers. But then there are the others, the majority, whose eyes do not merely watch. They dissect. Their gazes are like scalpels, meticulously peeling back layers, searching for flaws, for weaknesses, for the raw, vulnerable humanity beneath the carefully constructed mask. They are not merely observing. They are analyzing, judging, and in their silent scrutiny, there is a danger far more insidious than any overt hostility. Among these dangerous eyes are the whisperers, the courtiers, the sycophants, the bored elite who find their amusement not in the art itself, but in the struggle behind it. They enjoy watching the performer's desperate dance, the subtle shifts in his expression, the fleeting moments of strain that betray the immense effort required to maintain his composure. There is no true applause from these quarters, no genuine appreciation for the craft. There is only watching, a cold, clinical observation that strips away all pretense of entertainment and reveals the brutal reality of the power dynamic at play. The performer, with an almost supernatural sensitivity, honed by years of navigating treacherous social landscapes, senses when a gaze tightens, when interest wanes, when a flicker of boredom crosses a noble's face. That's when the danger begins to grow, a creeping vine of dread that threatens to choke the life out of his performance. He knows that beneath every polite smile, every feigned chuckle, may lie a profound boredom. And boredom, in this arena, is deadly. It is the precursor to indifference, and indifference, as he has learned, is the most potent weapon in the host's arsenal. So he shifts his act subtly, almost imperceptibly, like a master sculptor adjusting a single chisel stroke. He searches for sparks in the crowd, some ember of approval, some flicker of genuine engagement, some sign that he has managed to pierce through their jaded exteriors. He tells a more risk joke, performs a more daring physical feat, improvises a line that speaks directly to a shared Roman experience. Anything to reignite their interest, to buy himself another precious moment of their fleeting attention. It is a constant negotiation, a desperate plea for continued relevance in a world that discards its amusements as quickly as it consumes them. His eyes, though seemingly focused on the distant horizon of the audience, are constantly scanning, analyzing, interpreting the subtle cues. A slight narrowing of the eyes, a barely perceptible yawn, a shift in posture, each is a data point, a piece of information that he processes with lightning speed, adjusting his performance accordingly. He is a living algorithm, constantly optimizing his output for maximum engagement, for minimum risk. He understands that the true performance is not on the stage, but in the minds of his audience, in the delicate balance between their amusement and their cruelty. He must walk a fine line, pushing the boundaries just enough to be interesting, but never so far as to be offensive. He must be entertaining, but never so much that he overshadows the host. He must be memorable, but never so much that he becomes a threat. He recalls the stories of other performers, those who had misjudged the mood, those who had pushed too far, those who had failed to read the dangerous eyes. Their fates were swift and brutal, their names erased from memory, their existence reduced to a cautionary tale. He feels the weight of their unspoken warnings, a collective chorus of ghosts whispering in his ear. He knows that his life depends on his ability to anticipate their whims, to understand their unspoken desires, to become a living embodiment of their fleeting amusements. The pressure is immense, a suffocating blanket that threatens to crush his spirit. Yet, he cannot falter. He cannot show weakness. He must continue to perform, to dance on the edge of the abyss, to seek out those elusive sparks of approval that might just keep him alive. The dangerous eyes are a constant reminder of his vulnerability, of the precariousness of his existence. They are the eyes of predators, of connoisseurs of suffering, of those who hold the power of life and death in their indifferent hands. He delivers a particularly poignant monologue, a moment of raw emotion that he hopes will resonate with some deeper part of their humanity. He watches their faces, searching for a sign, a flicker of empathy, a moment of shared understanding. For a brief instant, he sees it, a tear in one woman's eye, a softening of expression in another man's face, a tiny spark. He seizes upon it, amplifying the emotion, pouring his very soul into the words, hoping to fan that ember into a flame. He knows that this is his only chance, his only weapon against the crushing weight of their indifference. The dangerous eyes are always watching, always judging, and his survival depends on his ability to keep them captivated, to keep them from looking away, to keep them from remembering the true purpose of this hidden theater. In the relentless, unforgiving glare of the hidden theater, where every breath is scrutinized and every gesture weighed, the performer's carefully constructed world suddenly threatens to unravel. It begins subtly, a fleeting sensation, a whisper of doubt that blooms mid-performance, like rot beneath the surface of a perfect fruit. Was that misstep visible? Did his foot falter for a fraction of a second? An almost imperceptible stumble that only he, and perhaps the most predatory eyes in the audience, could detect? Did the host, with his chillingly indifferent gaze, catch the momentary lapse in his otherwise flawless execution? Was the line delivered off rhythm, a syllable too soon, a pause too long, disrupting the delicate cadence he had so meticulously rehearsed? The questions, sharp and insidious, pierce through the protective layers of his concentration, threatening to shatter the illusion he has so painstakingly woven. He continues, his body moving through the practiced motions, his voice delivering the lines with a forced bravado. But now the silence is louder than any laugh. The space between his words, once filled with the comfortable hum of engagement, now reverberates with the deafening echo of his own self-doubt. Every second feels like stepping deeper into an unknown judgment, a treacherous quicksand of uncertainty. He becomes his own harshest critic now, replaying moments as he acts them, dissecting every nuance, searching for the fatal flaw. The internal monologue is relentless, a cruel counterpoint to the external performance. Asterisk, did they see it? Did they know? Is this the moment that all ends? Sweat gathers on his brow, a cold, clammy film beneath the heavy layers of paint. The mask, so carefully applied, so meticulously maintained, cracks but must not fall. One error, real or imagined, can become legend or, more terrifyingly, a final act. He tries to re-establish his rhythm, to regain the effortless flow that had captivated them moments before. He pushes harder, infusing his voice with more passion, his movements with more energy, hoping to overwhelm the perceived imperfection with sheer force of will. But the seed of doubt has been planted, and it grows with alarming speed, its tendrils wrapping around his confidence, suffocating his spontaneity. He finds himself overthinking, second-guessing, each gesture becoming a conscious effort rather than an intuitive expression. The joy, the fleeting sense of connection he had felt with the audience, dissipates, replaced by a cold, clinical assessment of risk. He is no longer performing. He is surviving, each moment a desperate struggle against the encroaching darkness of his own fear. He glances furtively at the host, a quick, almost imperceptible flick of his eyes. The host's expression remains unreadable, his face a mask of serene indifference. This offers no comfort. The absence of a reaction is often more terrifying than an overt one, for it leaves everything to the imagination, allowing the performer's own anxieties to fill the void. He scans the faces of the nobles, searching for any telltale sign, a raised eyebrow, a whispered comment, a subtle shift in their posture. But their faces, too, are carefully composed, reflecting the host's own detachment. They are masters of dissimulation, their true thoughts hidden behind layers of aristocratic composure. He is alone in his torment, a solitary figure battling an unseen enemy. The memory of the last performer, the one who didn't come back, resurfaces with chilling clarity. Had he, too, experienced this moment of doubt, this agonizing uncertainty? Had his mistake been real, or merely a figment of his own fear? The thought is a cold comfort, a grim reminder that even perfection is no guarantee of survival in this brutal arena. He forces himself to focus on the present, on the next line, the next gesture, the next beat of the performance. He reminds himself that the show must go on, that to stop, to break, to succumb to the fear would be to seal his own fate. He is a machine, programmed for survival, and he must continue to function, even as the gears grind and the engine sputters. He delivers a particularly complex monologue, a rapid-fire exchange of witty banter that demands absolute precision. He feels the words catch in his throat for a split second, a momentary hesitation that seems to stretch into an eternity. He recovers smoothly, almost imperceptibly, but the internal alarm bells are ringing. He knows. He felt it. Did they? The question echoes in his mind, a relentless tormentor. He finishes the monologue, and for a moment, there is a beat of silence, a collective held breath from the audience. Then, a smattering of polite applause, a few scattered chuckles. It is not the roar of laughter he had hoped for, not the enthusiastic ovation that would signal his triumph. It is merely polite, a lukewarm acknowledgement that offers no solace, no reassurance. The mistake, real or imagined, has cast a long shadow over his performance, and he knows, with a chilling certainty, that the final act is rapidly approaching. He continues, but now his movements are more rigid, his voice more strained, his eyes haunted by the specter of his own perceived failure. The performance is no longer a dance. It is a desperate struggle for breath, a silent plea for mercy in a world that offers none. The air in the hidden theater, already thick with unspoken tension, suddenly crackles with an almost unbearable charge. The performer, mid-gesture, mid-line, feels it, a subtle shift, an almost imperceptible tremor in the collective consciousness of the audience. It is not a sound, not a word, but a presence, a change in the very fabric of the atmosphere that signals an impending shift in his fate. His eyes, constantly scanning, constantly interpreting, catch it, a small gesture from the host. It is not a grand, dramatic movement, but a mere twitch of a finger, a slight inclination of the head, a barely perceptible shift in his posture on the elevated chair. Yet, in this arena where every nuance holds immense weight, this tiny action reverberates with the force of a thunderclap. The host shifts. Fingers curl ever so slightly around the stem of his chalice, a movement that seems both casual and utterly deliberate. A guard, standing rigidly by the entrance, straightens his posture, his eyes fixed on some unseen point, his body language betraying a heightened state of readiness. This is not the end of the performance, not yet, but it might very well be the end of the performer. In Rome, death doesn't come from swords alone, not in these gilded cages of power. Sometimes it's in the tilt of a wrist, the subtle tightening of a jaw, the almost imperceptible narrowing of eyes. These are the silent signals, the unspoken decrees that carry more weight than any shouted command. The performer, his heart hammering against his ribs with a desperate urgency, feels the weight of eyes narrowing, decisions forming, a collective judgment solidifying around him. The laughter, which had been his fragile shield, his temporary reprieve, fades into a breathless quiet. The murmurs of the audience cease, replaced by a profound, suffocating silence that is far more terrifying than any boisterous disapproval. He delivers the final line of his current act with a trembling grace, his voice a little too strained, his movements a little too stiff, but he pushes through, because the show, however grim, must go on until it doesn't. He tries to decipher the signal, to understand its meaning. Is it a sign of approval, a subtle nod of satisfaction that his performance has met the host's exacting standards? Or is it a prelude to his demise, a silent command for the guards to prepare, for the final curtain to fall, not on his act, but on his life? The ambiguity is a torment, a cruel game played by those who hold absolute power. He searches the faces of the nobles, desperate for a clue, a hint of their interpretation. But their expressions are as inscrutable as the host's, their eyes reflecting only the flickering lamplight, revealing nothing of their thoughts. They are complicit in this silent drama, their silence a testament to their own fear, their own subservience to the man in the chair above. The host's power is absolute, his authority unquestioned. He is the ultimate arbiter of taste, of talent, of life itself. The performer understands that his fate is not in his own hands, but in the whim of this one. A man who views him not as a human being, but as a disposable commodity, a fleeting source of amusement. He recalls the stories of those who had faced this moment before him, those who had misread the signals, those who had failed to appease the insatiable appetite of the host. Their names are whispered in hushed tones, their fates serving as grim warnings, etched into the very stones of this hidden theater. He feels the weight of their collective experience, a chilling reminder of the precariousness of his own existence. He continues his performance, his body moving through the practiced motions, his voice delivering the lines with a forced bravado, but his mind is racing, desperately trying to anticipate the host's next move. He is a chess piece on a grand board, and the host is the master player, his every move calculated, his every decision final. He tries to project an aura of confidence, of effortless grace, even as his insides churn with a desperate fear. He knows that any sign of weakness, any crack in his carefully constructed facade, could be his undoing. He must maintain the illusion, even as the reality of his situation presses in on him, suffocating him with its brutal truth. Then, the host makes another movement, equally subtle, equally profound. He raises his chalice, not to drink, but to offer a silent toast. His eyes, still devoid of warmth, meet the performer's for a fleeting instant, a gaze that seems to pierce through his very soul. Is it a gesture of approval, a sign that he has passed the test, or is it a final, mocking farewell, a silent acknowledgement of his impending doom? The performer cannot tell. The ambiguity is a torment, a cruel game played by those who hold absolute power. He finishes his act, his body trembling, his voice barely a whisper. The curtain falls, not with a flourish, but with a quiet sigh, leaving him in the sudden, suffocating darkness of the wings. He stands there alone, the silence of the hidden theater pressing in on him, waiting for the final judgment, the ultimate signal that will determine his fate. He has delivered his final line, but the performance, he knows, is far from over. The true drama, the one that truly matters, is about to begin. The heavy velvet curtain falls, not with a triumphant flourish, but with a quiet, almost mournful sigh, plunging the performer into the sudden suffocating darkness of the wings. Whether by grace, by a fleeting flicker of the host's elusive approval, or by the sheer, overwhelming silence that now engulfs the hidden theater, he has left the stage. He stands there alone, the echoes of his final lines still reverberating in a cavernous space, the phantom weight of 1,000 judging eyes still pressing down upon him. But something lingers, something far more profound than the lingering scent of warm oil and fading roses, more persistent than the fading memory of applause or the chilling specter of execution. In that moment of retreat, as the stage lights dim and the last of the audience's murmurs fade into the night, one question echoes louder than any ovation, more piercing than any death knell. Asterisk, was I ever a man, or merely a momentary illusion? This question, born from the crucible of his desperate performance, is not a simple query about identity. It is a profound existential crisis, a raw, unvarnished confrontation with the very nature of his being. For hours he had shed his self, meticulously crafting a mask, becoming a vessel for the amusement of others. He had contorted his body, twisted his voice, and manipulated his emotions, all to serve the fleeting desires of an indifferent audience. He had been charming, clumsy, clever, vulnerable, and strong, a kaleidoscope of personas, each designed to elicit a specific reaction, each a desperate plea for survival. But in becoming everything to everyone, had he become nothing to himself? Had the mask consumed the man? The line between the performer and the performance had blurred, then vanished entirely, leaving him adrift in a sea of manufactured emotions and borrowed identities. As the night deepens and the last of the sandals whisper against the stone floors of the empty halls, the soul of the performer drifts. It does not drift into memory, for memory is often a construct, shaped by the narratives of those who remain. His existence in this context was too ephemeral, too fleeting, too easily forgotten by those who had consumed his art. Instead, his soul drifts into something far quieter, far more profound, the forgotten space between fear and applause. This is the liminal space, the void between the desperate struggle for life and the fleeting validation of an audience. It is a space where the raw, unvarnished truth of his ordeal resides, untainted by the embellishments of memory or the distortions of public perception. What remains is not the act itself, not the carefully rehearsed lines or the meticulously choreographed gestures. Those were merely the tools, the ephemeral means to a desperate end. What remains is the silence that followed. And in that silence, perhaps, he was finally heard. Not heard in the conventional sense, not through the thunderous applause or the whispered commendations, but heard in the profound, resonant stillness that followed his departure, a silence that spoke volumes about the impact he had, however fleeting, however terrifying. It was a silence that acknowledged his struggle, his vulnerability, his desperate fight for another breath. It was a silence that held the weight of his sacrifice, the unspoken testament to the human spirit's capacity for endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. He walks through the deserted corridors, the cool stone, a stark contrast to the burning heat of the stage. Each step echoes in the emptiness, a solitary rhythm in a world that has suddenly gone quiet. He touches his face, feeling the residue of the pigments, the faint stickiness of the sweat that had mingled with the paint. The mask is still there, a thin, almost imperceptible layer, but beneath it, he feels the contours of his own skin, the familiar landscape of his own face. He is still himself, perhaps, but irrevocably changed. The experience has etched itself onto his soul, leaving an indelible mark, a constant reminder of the night he danced with death for the amusement of others. He thinks of the host, the man who held his life in his indifferent hands. What did he see? What did he feel? Did he, too, experience a flicker of something beyond mere amusement? Or was the performer truly just a distraction, a momentary diversion in a life filled with endless, jaded pleasures? The questions remain unanswered, hanging in the quiet air, a testament to the impenetrable nature of power and the profound loneliness of the vulnerable. He will never know the true impact of his performance, for the true judgment was not delivered in words or gestures, but in the silent, unreadable depths of the host's eyes. Yet, in this profound silence, a new understanding begins to emerge. He realizes that the performance was not just for them. It was for him. It was a test of his own resilience, his own courage, his own will to survive. He had faced his deepest fears, confronted the specter of death, and emerged, however scarred, however changed. The applause he had sought was not for his artistry, but for his continued existence. And the execution he had feared was not just a physical end, but the ultimate erasure of his being, the final confirmation that he was, indeed, nothing more than a momentary illusion. As the first faint rays of dawn begin to pierce through the cracks in the ancient stone, casting long, ethereal shadows across the empty theater, the performer finds a strange sense of peace. The fear has not vanished entirely, but it has receded, replaced by a quiet resolve. He has faced the darkness, and he has survived. He may never know if he was truly heard, truly seen, truly valued for anything more than his ability to entertain. But in the profound silence that follows the final act, he finds a deeper truth. He was real. His fear was real. His struggle was real. And in that reality, however brutal, however fleeting, he finds a quiet dignity. The forgotten space between fear and applause is not an empty void, but a sacred ground. A testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, to endure, to create, and to survive even in the face of overwhelming indifference. And in that space, perhaps, he was finally truly himself.